My name is Tshepo Mofokeng. I am the CAE at University, and I am on the IIA Global Board. I'm director currently for Global Services. IIA, it's a regional body that organizes our affiliates in the continent of Africa. Well, Africa has been always a key player in the IIA, and quite recently, I think there's been about a few developments. One of them is that the IIA has, for the first time, appointed a regional manager just for Africa to focus on African-related issues. But secondly, Africa has been key in the developmental of what we call the PRO, Internal Audit Act, which would then be a catalyst to advocate for legislating the practice of internal audit in the African continent. And on the third part is that Africa as a continent has been seen as a place where there's a lot of growth. And also amongst that, we actually now seeing a number of students in internal audit coming and playing a big role in the global space, and also contributing towards having universities which are centers or which are part of the Academic Alliance program, included as part of the universal universities that are part of the sphere of this Academic Alliance program. The challenge with the standards, this is where then the adoption would not be the same in all the different jurisdictions. Jurisdictions would be different depending on how the country's regulatory and governance structure is aligned. So countries which have got, let's say for example, regulation around what happens in the telcos, what happens in financial services, what happens in banking and public sector, those you find that the adoption becomes easy because they've got a law that backs them, right? And then it also becomes even more prominent in South Africa that because you've got a key code of conduct, then now even in the private sector, in large organizations, because you are supposed to kind of adopt king, you are kind of having to then adopt internal audit and its standards. So, and then you found that because in other jurisdictions, where there was not an element that would force people to adopt, the adoption was not as easy as it was. So there's been a mix of the adoption process. So there's no one size fits all. But I think countries are learning from each other to do it better. So trust can always be repaired and it can always be built. And as we say in that, we're moving from a reactive tradition now to a proactive, future-focused, strategic, aligned internal audit function. So if internal auditors get involved just from a strategy setting point of view, from assisting management with KPI definition and to see how the KPIs are weighted and how the KPIs will be achieved. And probably where there is no controls to already design them, but also where there is issues around innovation to be able to advise, and also advise on the issue of culture and policies and processes. That's how you gain the whole issue of being a trusted advisor, because you are simply bringing value into the organization more than just being a cost center. So if you follow that model, that becomes quite an easy thing to achieve, because then people come to you and say, we've got this issue, and they consult you on it. And that is when you are now a trusted advisor. the one thing that I think that the countries or the different affiliates must adopt is just to try and promote that. I would say actually 100%, but I know it's a brutal order of their members, either get certified as certified internal auditors, or they actually acquire the IAP certifications, because it becomes a bit easier for the profession to be respected when the people who are actually practicing have got some kind of a certification behind them. It makes it a bit easier to also differentiate them from those who actually wants to actually create problems for us in the profession and do wrong things because they're not part of us, but they seem to be part of us. Well, an African city has once hosted an African global summit. So in 2009, the international conference was in Johannesburg. So it's not a new thing. So it's been done before. But what it would take, and this is what we need to think. We need to think about what it takes to host an international conference. So one, you need infrastructure in terms of the venue that you're gonna have that for. But also you need to have infrastructure as to how the people get to your city. But number three, does the city have enough accommodation for delegates to be able to move around and to get to, but also on ground type of transport for them to be able to get around. So you need basically to say, is there a place or a city that can be able to do that, looking at 3,000 delegates? And if that is the answer, is yes, that is doable, right? So what IIA needs to do, IIA needs to here come together and decide to say, okay, which city are we backing, and take a long-term 3-4 year view and work on all these things. And once they're happy, they can say, okay, we are all backing this city to be able to host this thing. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the technology, and also they've got the necessary logistical support for them to host that kind of a thing. Because all you want to do is that you want to give the people who are coming to your city a great and a memorable conference experience.